and coming up on this episode of the Marty Mariner Show. Well, first of all, some congratulations to my beautiful daughter, Caitlin, and her partner, Matt, on the arrival of their firstborn child last Saturday, the 1st of October. Alaska Jade joined the family. We are all very proud of you guys, very excited, and great timing by Alaska. Obviously knew that the A-League season was upon us and that the F3 Derby was coming up exactly 1 week after she was born. So she knew she wanted to be out and about for that one there. So can't wait to bring Alaska to her very first Mariners game at the stadium in the very near future. So congratulations, guys. Season preview time. Well, we better get the season preview done because the first game's this weekend for the mighty Central Coast Mariners. As I said, it's an F3 Derby. It's the original and the best. Central Coast Stadium, 5 o'clock kickoff, underneath the shade of the beautiful palm trees and those inflatable sauce bottles. And to see Marvin back out doing his thing. Will there be flares? Will there not be flares? Who knows? Just have to be there to find out. 5 o'clock, what a great time for a kickoff. Supposed to be a bit of rain around, but who cares? We're there to fill the stadium and support the boys. If they can play in the rain, we can certainly cheer in the rain. If you haven't got your tickets yet and you've played football on the coast this year, check out your club's Facebook pages. Some very nice discounts there for players and their families. Make sure you check that out to get some tickets for the game. And why not just become a member? Check out the membership page on the club's official website. Jesse and Ian will certainly look after you there and help get you on board. Speaking of getting things on board, well, I had to get 3 legends on board to help me with this show today. The season preview and what some legends that we got. Adam Kwasnik is joining me. Mick Morley is joining me as well. And Dan from the Coast FM 963 football team, the A-team. Their broadcast games, every single game since day one. They've been absolutely fantastic, those guys. So great to have Dan on the show today too. Looking forward to talking a bit of the Mariners from last year. How did we end up? What do we rate the season? Transfers in and out, a lot of numbers. Who are we going to miss and who are we excited has come in? Where are the Mariners going to finish this year? And a bit of a prediction on the game on the weekend. And we'll also touch on the Maddie Simon retirement, moving into the coaching ranks. Also excited to say that Maddie Simon will be joining us here in the next couple of weeks. So it'll be great to have a chat to him and listen to how this last week or two has been for him. It's certainly a big time in a player's life when it comes to retirement. And we're also going to touch a bit on Garang Kuol heading over to Newcastle United, what we actually think of the move. Obviously, we all wish the fella the best of luck, but we'll have a bit of a chat about that. I have no doubt it's going to be an absolutely bumper show today. Can't wait to bring it to you. It's the Marty Mariner Show. Welcome back to the Marty Mariner Show. It's our season preview for the mighty Central Coast Mariners. Assembled a team of absolute legends to help me get through it. First of all, Dan from Coast FM Football 963. How are you, mates?
I'm good, thanks. Absolute legends and Dan McCamley from 963. That's probably a better intro.
Well, mate, it's as it was written down, so I just have to go with the flow, right? You got to stick to the script. So
that's right.
Must be pumped, mate. Got a big F3 Derby to call on the weekend.
Yeah, look, I would be looking forward to it. Unfortunately, I've got family commitments that have been booked for 6 months prior, but the Derby's always massive, and the Mariners have had some really good results recently in the Derby as well. They've got the wood on the Jets at the moment, so I'm hoping and expecting for more of the same come Saturday night.
But I'm sure you'll be tuning into the boys anyway.
Yeah, I'll be on my iPhone in the bathroom, I think.
As you do. Speaking of, definite legends, he was the first ever guest on the Marty Mariner Show. Absolute fan favourite. Definite legend on the field. You've only got to ask him and he'll tell you. Adam Kwasnik, how are you, mate?
Good, Marty. How are you, mate? Especially after that North London Derby result.
Yep, no, that's edited. That's great, mate. Go Penrith, mate. You've got to be happy about that, though.
Oh, mate, still celebrating, to be honest. I'm actually down here at the minute at my parents' place, and the place is buzzing. went to the Leagues Club. Look, back-to-back titles, very hard to do in modern-day sport, and they did that, and they did that convincingly on Sunday night.
Absolutely. And also, as I said, it's a room full of legends today. Mick Morley, club legend, Mariners maniac, just like myself, dance extraordinaire, fundraising guru. The list could go on, but we're only going to go for an hour. Mick, how are you, mate?
Yeah, really well. I'm glad to be here, mate. Thanks for that little intro. Wish I had Quaz's stats, but no, it's all good, mate. It's great community. It's great to give back to the community. I love the bits and that I do with the Mariners and that Mariners family. That backroom Mariners family is something special, I can tell you.
No, absolutely, mate. I've said for many, many years about the backroom staff. They're the best in the league, and we stand by that absolutely. So, 100%. Look, boys, we were talking. We're going to be talking Mariners pre-season and all we're going. But last 24 hours, the news that Maddie Simon is going to be retiring, stepping into the coaching staff role with the club, which is fantastic. Quaz, I'll start with you, mate. You've shared a few dressing rooms and a few games with Maddie Simon. What's your immediate thoughts?
Yeah, look, somewhat sad, mate. I sort of reflect every now and then on the players they're a pitch with, and when you go through a list of players, obviously plenty of Socceroos and some foreigners that were absolutely outstanding. But with Simo, he's the type of guy that you do anything for on the field and off the field as well. He's just a great bloke. Works so hard at his craft. And when I say craft, that is scoring goals, and he does just that. And then the defensive side of it as well. He's worked ever so hard to get where he is and what he's done and what he's achieved. And couldn't go to a better person and a great player as well. 61 goals for the club, not to mention final series goals and Asian Champions League goals. He's represented the club outstandingly, and it's sad to see him retire due to injury. But he knows what he's capable of, what his body's capable of, and he just had to hang him up, and it's very unfortunate, but can't wait for his next chapter in his career.
No, absolutely. And do you think so too, mate, that he got probably, we all talk about him as his strength up front and getting in the faces of defences and that sort of aggro that he brought to the front line, but his skill in playing the game and putting a ball in the net was probably underestimated, right?
100%. I said he's worked extremely hard at his game overall, and that includes, even build up, dropping deep to pick up the ball and sort of play passes and then try to get on the end of those final passes as well, the movement in the box. His all-round game, it goes unnoticed, but he's got a bit of quality about him. And the most important thing for me is, when he started, he was very raw. It took a while to get on the score sheet and get his debut goal. But once he got one, we all know that he could become a goal scorer, and he did just that. He's the all-time greatest goal scorer for the club.
Oh, absolutely. Dan, you've seen Maddie Simon play many a game. Any memories or any Matt Simon thoughts that come to mind the minute? I mean, to me, everyone kept saying about the whole Ziggy Gordon thing, sort of pointing to him at the ground. But was there something else that sort of came to mind when you think Maddie Simon?
Oh, probably heart.
Yeah.
He went out there every game. Didn't matter win, lose or draw. Didn't matter the score line. If they were getting beat 3-0 or they were up 3-0, he put in 110% every single time he stepped foot on the park. And look, he's a local lad. He's a junior from the Central Coast, and it showed when he played. When he put that jersey on, he was playing for the region. He was playing for his hometown, and you would hope that he's inspired plenty of young kids to follow in his footsteps from this region. There's a good pathway for juniors here on the Central Coast, and Matt Simon is the example that you can get to the top of that tree and play professional football. Look, his efforts in a Mariners jersey, I don't think will ever be forgotten. It's going to take a lot for somebody to pass that goal scoring record. Yeah. I joked, I wasn't even really a joke. I put it out on Twitter yesterday about, naming a stand at Central Coast Stadium after him. I'm not sure you're going to find another person from the Central Coast that's going to have achieved what he's achieved in football to go and name a stand after at that ground. So, let's get it done, Central Coast Stadium. I think it'd be a great honour for him. He's put his heart and soul into that club, and good luck to him in his future endeavours.
No, 100%. And I think, Mick, on the field, obviously a legend there. I can't remember too many Mariners players that stood around after a game to make sure that every single kid got their shirt signed, the photos were taken. We talk fan favourites, but mate, he's definitely up there as the king of the kids. I never saw anyone stick around as long as he did.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. He was always happy to give his time, because I think he's quite humble. And as Quaswood know, I've always said about Matty Simon, he's the sort of guy that you want to play with and not play against. And that's, to me, is a sign of a good player. And we've all come against him at whatever level. You go to him, I want him on my side, I don't want to play against him. And I spoke to him this morning there, and apparently last week wasn't a good week. This week he's upbeat. He's got the grey training strip on today, as you saw. The first thing he said to me, "How do I look in grey?" And I don't want to say you look good, but it's good. It's good for him. As we all know, it's hard with athletes that just stop. Maddie's sort of just stopped. He has been training, as we know, but the thing is that he's not waking up tomorrow and not having anything to do. He's still at training, and I think that's going to be a great transition, as Quaz would probably know as well, mate.
Yeah. And you think too, the fact that he hasn't been playing for a while, this transition will be a little bit easier rather than just injuring it all stop real quick.
Yeah, I think so. That's probably catch-22, and it's like probably training. The way I saw him training, a month ago, it looked like he was ready to play.
Yeah.
So I think in all fairness, he was wanting to hit the pitch. Then probably when realistically it probably said no. That was probably hard for him. He's like I said, I think he seems upbeat now. It's your life, isn't it? Your structure. So I think he'll be very valuable for the boys, out in the pitch. He'll be great probably pre-match, after match functions and stuff. We'll probably get to see him, come into some of the stuff that we do there, the pre-match. He's easy approachable. He loves the kids. He has a great talk, and he's just an all-round good coasty bloke,
Yeah, absolutely. I want him to give the team talk before the F3 derby. I reckon I'd love to be a fly on the wall with that one. Quaz, just as a the way that players can go from being in a squad to becoming coach, like he's going to make that transition from trying real hard to be part of it to now sort of stepping over the fence, if you like. As Mick said today, seeing him down there with the coaches, he looked a little bit lost. It was almost like the boys were doing runs and he's like, I don't have to do them anymore. How good's that? That transition will probably take a little bit of time for him, won't it?
Oh, no question. I think, it's really great that the club's sort of looking after him and sort of transitioning, giving him an opportunity to be a part of the coaching staff. I think that's really, really important. From personal experience, Phil Moss gave me that opportunity, not at that type of level, but obviously the opportunity to be a community coach and be out in the schools and the local clubs. And I was forever grateful for that. But it made that transition, from playing to stop playing a little bit smoother, because you're still involved with the football club. I think we know that transition being on the coaching staff, there'll be some days where it's going to be hard. There's no question about that. But he's got to put himself about there and just offer any insight he can, especially to the young players. If Monty or Serge ask anything of him, he can put his input in there as well. He just won't be able to lace up the boots and physically go out there and deliver as he's done for many, many years for the club, which is going to be hard for him initially. But I think the club offering him this role, it'll be a smoother transition.
Yeah, no, I did notice at the open training session today, Monty dragged him in for a bit of the 3-on-3 and 4-on-3 stuff, and he was still dirty on himself when he wasn't scoring goals. So he's going to have that passion, and that's going to relate to the rest of the guys. And we've got a relatively young squad, and I can only imagine what that experience is going to do for him. So obviously we wish him all well. Having a chat to him today, he's actually going to be joining us on the program in a couple of weeks' time. So it'd be really interesting to find out how it's gone for him this first couple of weeks. So we're looking forward to catching up with Maddie then. But speaking of the rest of the boys, Dan, first of all to you, the end of the season last year for the Mariners is where we'll start. What do you think about the end of last year? Finished fifth in the comp out in the elimination semi, final of there was the FFA Cup, the Australia Cup. How do you rate last season?
Yeah, look, all things considered, I think it was a pretty successful one, even though they went out first week of the finals. The big question mark to start last season was the loss of Alan Stadich, right? And nobody was really sure just how well Nick Montgomery could do or how long it would take him to settle in. And to Nick's credit, he was outstanding. The boys were playing some really good football. They scored the second most amount of goals in the competition last year behind Melbourne City. They played some really attractive and attacking football. I guess the big question mark this year is the player turnover. There's been plenty of ins and outs for the club. Last year, Nick lent heavily on the youth. This season, he's brought in a few more experienced players, some overseas visa players. It's going to be interesting to see how they fit into the team and if Nick can get the best out of them. But if they continue playing the way they played last season, and if they get the returns from their young players that they did last season, I think it's another season where the Mariners will be finishing inside that top six at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. Mick, would you class last year as a successful season for the club?
I would say yes on the grounds of what we said with all of a sudden Stadge going. I know for a fact that was a shock. We had lunch. I actually had lunch the day before with all the players. Michael Davies from DMC put on lunch, and I was lucky to go along. And the next day he was gone. It was a strange thing, but we moved on, and obviously Monty was the choice. A few funny things happened last year. We started really well. We were coming into the Christmas period, and I think we had Wellington, and we were just on a roll. I think we would have smashed them. I think we would have really went into the Christmas period on a roll. COVID came. The boys, I can't remember, it was 3 weeks over that Christmas period. We come back, we weren't the same team. And we had to keep building and building and building again. And then we got up to it. Like I say, the FFA Cup was a great achievement, considering, and the boys went well, and they were just a little bit overwrought on the night down there, but that was, a great effort. I went over to Adelaide for the final. Just felt like we felt flat. Felt like we were going to win this. It had that feeling about it. And we lost Maresh, I think, for that game. He was going well. So I think overall, I'd say you'd have to be happy with especially having a brand new coach just come in at that stage, and like we said, a lot of youth. I think we should be happy with what we got. Yeah and build. This is going to build. Yeah.
I think this year's first up. I think this year's gonna be pretty exciting for us. But Quas, the final was a big game for us in Melbourne. Obviously, we spoke about it when we had our interview earlier. For the young blokes, they would have learned a lot from that. Do you think it was also maybe a dent in the confidence a little bit, because we did fall a little bit flat not long after the final? Do you think that maybe affected them a bit too much?
Yeah, I think there was obviously a bit of a cup hangover after the defeat to victory. I think it's very hard to bounce straight back. They played successive games not long after that Australia Cup final, and there was a bit of a dip, as Mick mentioned. Before that, they were flying, and they were flying in the cup, and obviously made the final in the cup. And after that defeat, there was a bit of a dip. I totally agree. They would have learned from it, those young players, or at least we hope they did. I guess making the finals now 2 years in a row, there is a bit of an expectation this season ahead. Nick and the coaching staff really, really need to, drill that into the players. It's not going to be a walk in the park. They still have to earn it, and we'll really see what players can stand up in this coming season.
Absolutely. And Dan, I think, from memory, I think it's 10 players that we've transferred out since the end of that season. For you, who's the standout? Who's the one you think we're going to miss the most out of the 10 that have gone?
Well, as a former goalkeeper, I'd like to say Mark Birighitti, but I think the club have done a great job in replacing him.
It's not a bad trade, is it?
No, look, I don't want to say it's an upgrade, because Mark Birighitti was absolutely outstanding for us, and really, I think, was the main reason why the club turned their results around on the pitch, to have that quality goalkeeper back there bail you out so often. But Danny Vukovic he's world class. He's in and around the Socceroos squad. He's played in Europe, and he's coming back now. So look, I think Kai Rolls leaves a massive hole, and I'm not sure if they've filled that. But I know they've brought a few players in. Dan Hall is going to have to take a lot of responsibility now as that leader at the back, and he's only young still, coming off a knee injury towards the end of last season. I think centre back could be an issue for the Mariners, and I think that Kai Rolls sized hole that has been left may come back to bite them.
Yeah, And what do you think, Mick? Do you think it's the back line that where we've maybe not traded so well? Where's your thoughts at the moment?
Yeah, look, and out of that too, then we met Miller had a great season too. You got to like, he was awesome. He went from strength to strength that year, and people don't realize how much of a big gorilla he was. He was he was a beast, and he was just on his day he was awesome. Kai, mate, what a player. Miss him for two reasons. What a fantastic fella.
Yeah.
He's right. What have we got? The big Kalichi John come in at the back there.
Yep.
Saw him at Wollongong. Haven't seen a lot. I don't know the closed doors games. Big boy. Tell you what, don't want to get in his way. I think I was concerned to start with, and I spoke to Serge and Monty. We were just having a chat, and I was a little worried in midfield. I like a midfield general sort of thing. I don't know if we had one. Steely's a great kid, going well. Nizzy's fantastic. So I mean, I'm not worried about up front. I think we're killing it, even though we haven't got, obviously Maddie's not there, and I think young Michael Roos. I think you're going to see good things from him. I like him. Obviously we've got Jace. Jason's awesome. So I don't think. I know we lost a lot, but I still think that we're probably. I'm hoping a little in front. I really do. I know the squad is they're like a town team. They are so good together. They get on so well. The vibe in that back room, we were there today, as you know, and a vibe of they're having fun. They got the bit of the Penrith with the boombox thing happening. They got that, and it's just, it looks like a fun place to be. And if it's a fun place to be, you'll find that works on the field, mate.
No, absolutely. And I think too, Quaz, we spoke about even without looking at players' names, but experience. Losing that experience that we had through the middle of the field, from Birighetti to Rolls to Marco Urenia playing through the middle to even the Mullers, Bazanik. Like, there's a lot of games played amongst those guys. Do you think we've replaced that experience? I know we've got some players who we're probably a bit unknown for us at the moment, but experience-wise, do you think we've kind of covered that gap?
To some extent, Marty. I think obviously Vuka coming in, I think that fills a big void with Mark Birighetti leaving. Kalichi, as Mick and Dan explained, it's a bit of an unknown, but we hope he's the real deal. Look, I think those two positions that both Mick and Dan mentioned, the middle of the park and obviously centre of defence, personally, I think we're a bit light. There's no question about the firepower up front.
Absolutely.
You hope those young players that were a part of that squad last year, in particular the Australia Cup final, you hope they learnt from those big game experiences, and you hope there's one or two of them that can really step up, Dan Hall being one of them. Going to have to be a real leader. I think Bazanik's a big miss in the middle of the park. You got young Nisbet, and I think you got Steely as well. They'll probably be the two starting holders to start the derby. If that's the case, one of them really needs to have a big game. I guess the problem is where we're going to find the creators to Cummings on a plate and let him bang in the goal. So, look, I think we've recruited fairly well. There's some I'm a bit unsure about, but we'll just have to wait and see. And if it turns out they are the real deal, it's easy to say in hindsight, yes, we've recruited well, but again, we'll just have to wait and see.
No, 100%. And I think it was Mick who mentioned it before, but Dan, I've seen a bit of Michael Roos play. I know he's been at MacArthur last couple of years. Watching him again today in the games, I didn't realise he's a big, strong unit kind of fellow. To me, he's perfect to play up front with Cummings and just sort of, hold out that ball. A little Matt Simon in his kind of play. He'll sort of, hold it up well. I didn't realise he's only 19, that kid.
Yep. He's still young and plenty of potential. I liked what I saw from him, especially in the second half in that FFA or the Australia Cup game against Sydney FC. I thought he was excellent in that second half. Look, they've definitely, it's been touched on, but they've definitely recruited in the front third. They've got plenty of attacking options. The centre back and midfield, as we've said, a few question marks. I don't think personally they've ever replaced Gianni Stensness, that big strong, ball-winning centre
Number 6,
midfielder
yeah.
who's not going to take anything from anyone. He's going to win every header that comes his way.
Yeah.
Josh Nisbet's going to have a big role to play this year, and hopefully he can stay on the park. But going forward, there's plenty of options, and Roos is one of them. And as you said, he's only 19 years old, and he gets an opportunity at a club that's known for giving young players an opportunity. So hopefully he gets some game time under his belt and he'll bang in the goals.
No, absolutely. And I think, Mick, we're very similar. You see Birighetti moving on, and it's like, well, who's going to take his spot? There's a bit of a wonder there. Vukovic steps in, we go, oh, how good's that? We saw him get the armband today. Maddie passed it on to him. He brings so much to this club on and off the field, doesn't he?
Amazing. I watched him train a fortnight ago, and I think I counted about 30 the drills, and Poz know what those drills that they go through. He didn't drop a ball. I mean, it was amazing. It was full length, dropped the ball. I went out the back room this afternoon. He was laying there doing some weights, and I tell you what, he's got a set of guns on him. You don't realise that. You don't want to run into them, man. I pity the guy that runs into him the first time, mate, because he's going to be flat in his back, mate.
Exactly
he's,
right.
And he's no spring chicken, but goalkeepers that and keep him fit. That means nothing. Yeah. One question about a goalkeeper being a captain: it's very hard to portray all that a long way up the field, as you would know. Great in the defence, but I think going forward. And one of the things he said to me, and Serge has said the same thing, and you always get it when you've got a young team. They got to talk. They got to talk more. You'll see, just young teams are quiet, and as Quas would have known that too. That they've got to have a chat. They've got to have the talk, and that comes with experience. So I think going forward, Vuka's only going to be heard to halfway, possibly. So maybe Jace, the older head up there, and. Plenty of chat, mate. That's what they need. But Vuk's a great thing to come to the club, mate. I saw him when he first came out, and he was really happy to be here. And I think he'll be a fantastic leader, mate.
Oh, 100%. And he said today too, Quaz, that he'd really hated the last 12 months, like the game, like he just, it wasn't. But now he's fallen back in love with it again. As a player, you must have felt that sometimes yourself, where there's years where it's just like, do I really want to be doing this? And then you turn up at a club and all of a sudden you get that energy back. It must make you feel like, I made the right decision, but it's really good for me too.
Yeah, he said the same thing to me as well, Marty. I caught up with him a few weeks ago, and it was surprising, right? Because he's obviously coming from the Dutch Eredivisie, and you expect that a player of his caliber would be enjoying his football over there, but it wasn't to be. He got the move back to the Mariners, and as you mentioned, he's fallen back in love with the game. Obviously, it's a club that he fell in love with. He got a very, very big opportunity early on in his career at the Mariners, and he made the most of that opportunity, and his career skyrocketed from there. Look, I think him being a leader, I tend to agree with Mick. It would be great from a defensive point of view. In my opinion, defence wins titles, so it's going to be crucial. But that leadership further up the park, I mentioned a creator. You mentioned a talker in Jason Cummings. They really need someone in that front third to really stand up with their actions, but also a communicator as well, a leader in that front third as well. And I think Jason Cummings can do that to an extent, but I think he's going to need a hand as well.
No, 100%. Okay, Dan, someone who surprised me a little bit in pre-season has been Sammy Silvera. Sort of didn't leave, it seemed, on the best of terms, and off he went to chase his dreams, which... good luck to everyone. Went to Newcastle, didn't really get any minutes to impress. Talking to him today, he was really upbeat, fired up for a big season, and by all accounts and in games I haven't seen, he's actually been playing really, really well. He's still only a young guy too, but he's the type of player that we're going to be relying on. We're talking about this midfield. He's definitely going to be one of the guys we're going to need to fire up this year. Yeah,
you mentioned it just then, Marty. He's still only 21. It feels like he's been around for a long time. He's come back to a club where he first got his opportunity, and I think he'll get more opportunities again here. As I said, it's a pretty crowded sort of front third of the park. So when he does get his opportunities, he's going to have to take them. I see him as more of that wide player, sort of cutting in from the right or left. He's good on both feet. As you said, he chased his dreams. It didn't work out. He came back to Newcastle, didn't get a run. Hopefully he can recapture some of that early career form. It makes him sound old, but exactly. He was outstanding for the Mariners when he burst onto the scene, and he was the next sort of big thing, the next Garang Kuol, if you want to compare him to someone. didn't work out for him. He gets a second chance now, and he's only 21. So, the sky's still the limit for him if he can get some game time and find some form.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what a great segue to the next thing I was going to talk about with Garang Kuol. Mick, the contract with Newcastle, massive. It's been worldwide news. People who I talk to in England with their football, it's like, who's this kid? Doesn't he come from the club you were at, and all this sort of stuff. What do you make of a move? Because he's really only played a handful of games here. What's your immediate thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, I spoke to Luke Wiltshire this morning, and I said to him, do you reckon there's ever been a player that's been signed to an EPL team that's never actually started a full game of first team football? Yep. Does that sound ridiculous? Does it sound like that can't happen? He hasn't started a game of first team football, and he's got signed to gone to Newcastle. So, I mean, obviously someone knows something, and I assume he'll get loaned out.
Yeah,
he'll go over there. He'll get loaned out. They'll keep an eye on him. It's a little bit like, I guess, it's like buying a thoroughbred. You're buying you're buying a 2-year-old thoroughbred. You're sticking him there somewhere. You're putting in a paddock and hoping that when we need him, you're going to pull him out. Well, I'm assuming that's what they're thinking. So. Yeah. Mate, all the best. Like, what a fantastic story, man. That needed to be a documentary in its own.
Absolutely. Well, they're making documentaries out there at the moment. So, and I saw some cameras down there today. So you never know what might end up with it.
I dodged them. I tried to get in them. I couldn't. They didn't take any of me, mate.
Yeah? No, I thought they were following you around, mate. I thought it was a Morley conversation.
No. I wish.
Must be next week's episode.
I hope so.
Quaz, I mean, we talked about the lack of experience. To me, you can show up for a big game, even Socceroos, shine on the big stage, have a great game, whatever. But it's also about the week to week, isn't it? Because when you're a professional, you're getting paid good dollars, you're expected to get on that park and do the job week after week when needed to. And he hasn't had to be that in any kind of thing. There's word that he'll go to Newcastle, get loaned out. I believe Portugal's probably one place he's been talked about to go to. But, I mean, we all wish him well, but it's I don't think people can think it's a massive step, right?
Oh, it's huge. In my personal opinion, I think people have potentially jumped the gun a bit too early, and it's easy for Garang to do that himself because he's a young boy. He's just turned 18. But agents, people from both sides of the clubs, I think we've jumped the gun a bit too early. I like what Gus Hiddink said about him. There's a lot of potential there, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. My biggest fear, he gets loaned out once or twice and he gets caught up in the European wilderness over there and gets lost.
Yep.
I don't think that's good for his career. Yep. I would have loved him to have stayed. The club just hold off from a financial gain. Yep. Just stay here, have a little bit of sustained success as a club. Garang be a big part of that and then make the move. It's not to be. It's done now. So he's signed a deal with Newcastle. I just hope he doesn't get lost in the European wilderness.
Yeah, because even the Portuguese league, I mean, it's not the English Premier League. I mean, it's going to be, if that's where he ends up and he's playing, it's a different game. And I mean, there's the whole saying about, can you do it on a Wednesday night in Stoke? I mean, it's a tough league playing in England. And, for someone like, at that young age, and I think that's the thing I'm thinking of is more the physicality of it, that he hasn't had the weekly training game, the demands that comes with it. I mean, you know yourself, it's not just about that skill. It's just that mentality of just getting yourself right week after week, right?
100%. He's away from home as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure a club like Newcastle United will look after him and give him the best opportunity to shine and continue to develop. But it's that mindset as well. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's very strong-willed. He's a great character, Garang. I've obviously worked with him a little bit up at the sports school that he's at. But to move on the other side of the world to a big club, potentially be loaned out on big money, there's a lot on his plate there. And let's hope that he can continue to develop and become the player we all know that he potentially could be. But there's a lot of water to cross before he gets to that big stage, that big Premier League debut. And we'll just have to wait and see how it pans out. But I wish him all the very, very best.
No, absolutely. And, we see him run out at, is it still called St. James's Park up that way? And see him, if he's out there one day, I think that'd be magnificent. And I'm sure we'd all be cheering him on. And as you said, it's all about his welfare and hoping, that he's looked after and he gets gets the right people around him and advising him the right way. Dan, since we're talking Socceroos, our good friend Mr. Cummings, he's made a massive impact since he's been at the club. How important is he going to be to our, or any kind of charge we make this year?
Well, I think both of those players have to be on the plane. I think you've got to take the young kid that you can throw on with 15 minutes ago and has no fear and can just run at defenders. And I think you've got to take a proven goal scorer, and that's what Jason Cummings is. This might sound a bit harsh. I've seen enough of the guys that we have playing up front.
Yeah.
Take Jason Cummings. He'll find the back of the net. His hold up play is good. He might not be the quickest, but he's crafty and he's not afraid to pull the trigger around the box. He scored on debut from the penalty spot, which I was a little bit nervous for him because he has missed a few penalties, but found the back of the net. Would have scored anyway. It was a goal anyway. But I think both of those players have to go. If Australia, we're going to need to score goals. So take some goal scorers.
No, absolutely. And I think, and one thing today, like he was, even when after was practicing shooting, he was doing 20, 30 shots, like, play this one. The guy never stopped, like in what he was doing. But, and he hardly missed. And even in the games, like the ball's in the back of the net, he's just phenomenal in what he can do. I agree with Quaz. I think I'd love to see just someone of a bit more quality and experience sitting behind him. I think Michael Roos up front will be great, but I think we're just missing that middle of the park. Mick, you know the squad pretty well. Is there a player who we should be watching out for, you think, this year that we probably haven't mentioned, but maybe someone who you think might be a bit of a gun that we haven't really spoken about?
Good question. I was going to touch on Sammy Silvera. Apparently, the trials, he's and not only playing well, but he's banging goals away too.
Yeah,
which is fantastic. The more goal scorers you got, the better they come from. The better it is. I don't know. That's a hard one. We haven't seen a lot. And Canolo. Look, we've sort of mentioned him.
Yeah.
Look at last year. He just got better and better and better as games gone on. Great left foot. He can score goals. Who's the young boy? The other fullback. We haven't seen much of him. What's his name?
Jacob Farrell.
No. The new one. Sorry, I've got it. What's his Aquilina. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thought in the first game against Sydney when we lost it, I thought he had an ordinary game, but Vuk was talking about him the other week and said that he really impressed. So he could be someone that Farrell, obviously, we touched on Farrell, had a great year again. He, as we spoke about before with the backs, he's got to really probably step up again a little bit now too. And, not as a leadership, but as a last year's, fantastic player.
Yeah.
Maybe got to curb his enthusiasm a little bit. I don't know. I said, the new one that I'm sort of like I said before was Roos. I think that just something about that kid, I like him. I think that Michael Roos is going to be probably someone we'll go, wow, that's great,
Yeah.
Hope so. Apart from that, we're all, there's a lot of questions, as Quaz said, isn't it? A lot of questions out there with players that we don't know. What about the new Marco Tulio?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Does anyone know much of? I saw a little highlight package, but all that seemed to be like it was goalkeeper bloopers. Did you see that? It was like, what are they watching? So, maybe he might come out of the woodwork and go, wow, he's a Brazilian. Who knows? He can do what he wants. Hopefully, we got Maresh back February time.
February we said today.
Yeah. So let's hope. But we've got a plethora, I think, of forwards. So and again, as we, I think Marco leaving, this year too, as we talked about the big hole at the back, that leaves a big hole at the front too.
Yeah.
He could change a game. He was a game changer, definitely.
Yeah.
I know when we played Wellington over at Wellington, I think he came on because one of the young boys got injured.
Yeah, came on early, didn't he?
Came on early, turned the game on its head. 23rd minute, turned the game on its head. I think we scored 3 goals before halftime when he came on.
Yeah.
So another hole, but that's football. We fill the hole with new ones, and hopefully it works out. I'm confident. I'm actually pretty confident.
I'm I'm going to look forward to your bold prediction then. That'll be coming up very, very soon. One guy, I think he's only just played a little bit. Sasha Kazeski, young right back. I actually think he might be. I mean, I know we've got Storm Roos seems to be playing quite well at the moment too.
Stormy, yeah.
And I heard he may be part of the leadership group down there, which is awesome as well. I think that's fantastic. But yeah, he's just another gun. And the academy keeps just turning out these players and these young guys. Quas, you've been in squads and involved in squads where we get these young guys trying to beat down the door to play. That puts the pressure on, right? As well as trying to guide these young guys, but they're trying to take your spot as well, right?
Yeah, and you want that squad depth. You want everyone, especially the young players, really contributing to training and drive those experienced players and driving that starting 11 to get the best out of them so they can take that into the games on the weekend. There's no question about that. I go back to the experience of the cup final. I think that's going to be crucial. The likes of Farrell, Hall, these guys, Nisbet, that had the opportunity to experience it. Which one of those guys is going to step up and really become a leader for this young Central Coast Mariners team? I think that's going to be crucial. The first 6 games before the World Cup, I think those results, you look at the teams, I think they're very winnable, but players need to step up with their actions. We can talk all about pre-season and the format they're in, but now we're on the big stage. It's showtime. It's the season. It's the real deal. We need stepping up. And you mentioned those young players. Unfortunately, Mick just mentioned that, Maresh is not going to be ready till February. I think he's going to be key when he comes back. We've spoken about Silvera. I hope, he gets an opportunity to really show what he's worth. And then you got the likes of Nisbet, Nkololo. I'm expecting big things from Nkololo if they can keep fit and match fit as well. I don't think, he doesn't last the full 90 minutes, and I think he needs to step up and really, get that in his game and continue to score goals and assist goals, and he'll help the team moving forward.
Yeah, I know Benny had a bit of a flat spot last year where he was sort of a bit flat, and I was talking to Sean about him because all of a sudden he started playing really, really well, and I said, "Oh, what's he been doing? Different training, whatever?" He said, "No, his girlfriend's come over from France." So there's for all the coaches out there, if you want to know what affects your players, get the right people on board and surrounding. It must be the way to go. I'm going to ask you all the same question, but I'll start with you, Dan. Playing an F3 derby in the first round, a fan or not a fan?
No, I love it.
Love it.
Good way to kick off the season. Good way to get both fan bases involved. Both teams are starting on 0. Both fan bases have hope at the start of the year as well. I'm expecting a big crowd, big turnout, especially for the send off for Matt Simon.
True.
And yeah, I like it. Straight at the local rivals' throats, and a great way to kick off the season.
Okay, Mick, are you a fan?
100%.
Yep.
I think the league's got it right. They've also done other derbies in there, isn't it? I think the way they're doing it, the Big Blue. So yeah, why not? If you're going to do it, that's a great way of doing it, I think. And I think, as we said, dancing with the fans and stuff. I don't know if they're doing the same thing with their tickets, their tickets, and they can come down. And I think you got to embrace that. Why not start off with 3 points? Let's go.
Yeah. And Quaz, as a player, would you prefer to have a couple of games under the belt to play the derby, or are you not? Let's knock them off first up.
Oh, I've never had the opportunity to knock them up first up, but I think what an occasion! First game of the season, a derby. You got to be up for it. Yeah. Back of 3 convincing wins last season, there's no reason why they can't start strong again and knock the biggest rival off. And then from there, you've got 5 games before the World Cup break. They really need to start off with a derby win. There's no question about it. And I think it's a great opportunity to get both sets of crowds right to it and see where it all goes.
Absolutely. And I'm totally with Dan as well to send Matt Simon off in the right way. I'm absolutely gutted the guy couldn't make a team sheet to play 5 minutes or something just to run on at the end, just to at least get on the field. But talking to him today, he's probably said he'd run on, knock someone over, get the red card and just walk off and just wave. I think that would be absolute classic Maddie Simon. So I'll ask each of you the same thing as well. So I want to score for the game on the weekend and also where we're going to finish in the comp this year and why. Dan, I'll start with you.
I will go 3-1 Central Coast Mariners to open the season against the Jets. And I will say that the Mariners will improve on last season and finish inside that top 4 and get a home final first week.
Oh, how good would that be? All right, I'm happy to lock that one in. That's good. Mick, what about yourself?
Not too much difference there from Dan. I think we'll have a clean sheet.
Right.
I'm thinking it's going to be 3-0.
Oh.
Yeah, clean sheet for Danny, no doubt about it. First game, 3-0, and I agree. I look. Quaz said it, and it's an old. We know that trial matches mean nothing.
Yeah.
But what I've been told, the opposition's put out strong teams. I know we played City twice, and I saw some big names out there when we saw them at the stadium. I can tell you. So yeah, trials mean nothing, but also you'd rather win all your trials than lose them all.
True.
And again, winning becomes a habit. So I think on that, I think we should be top 4. Yeah, I really do. I think we will be. Yeah.
More than happy with that. Quaz, where are you at?
I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. I think, start the season strong with a clean sheet. The performance in a derby, I don't think it has to be spectacular. I just think they have to get the result. And I think a 2-0 win is a big opportunity to start the season well. As to where they finish, look, we've made 2 back-to-back final series. I'd like to think they can keep improving. I'd like to see them in a grand final, obviously from there, who knows. But I'm going to say they're going to come 4th. I think these first 6 games are going to be really crucial before the break. And then from there, maybe they go to the transfer market again and get a little bit more experience. But I'm tipping for another finals campaign. We know it's going to be a long season, especially with the World Cup break. I'm very hopeful they can finish in the finals again.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I definitely take 4th. I definitely take a win on the weekend, and I'm more than happy with the semi-final series. So we'll definitely lock all that in, boys. But look, it's been great to get you all together today to talk a little bit of Maddie Simon, but also how our Mariners are going to fare this year. So thanks heaps for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. We'll definitely get you back on again at some stage during the year. And go the Mariners and make sure we get out to the park on the weekend. Thanks for joining me, boys.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
And that is our show for tonight. Massive thank you to Quaz, to Mick Morley, and to Dan for joining me for the preview. Some great discussion on the squad and how we think things are going to go. Also around Maddie Simon and Garang Kuol as well. So really appreciate the guys coming on. I'm sure we will see them again at some stage during the season. If you have not subscribed to our channel yet, we're actually up to 80 subscribers, which for a little old channel, mainly just talking about the Central Coast Mariners and a bit of A-League here or there, absolutely amazing. We're going to push towards 100. Can we get 100 subscribers? It'd be great to do it before the season starts, even though we got a day, but we need to get it done real quick. But look, to everyone who has subscribed, thank you so much. It's easy to do. Just click on that little button in the corner. It will take you to the place where you need just to subscribe. It's absolutely free, and it really helps us here on the channel. Also, liking the video. How could you not like a video with Mick Morley, Quaz and Dan on it? Hit that like button. And there's plenty of room in the comments. Do you agree with the panel about where we're going to finish this year? And about the result against Newcastle? It'll be very, very interesting to see what you guys think as well. Look forward to reading them. That is our show for today. Thank you so much for sitting through right to the very end. I look forward to seeing you out at the stadium this Saturday for the F3 Derby. Can't wait. It's been the MartyMariner Show.